You're listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
Thanks to Concordia University, Wisconsin for supporting The Coffee Hour. Find out more about Concordia University, Wisconsin at cuw.edu.
Live uncommon.
I am just excited that we get to continue our adoption series. And today is a really unique story, a very special story that I'm just elated to share with you. Because in our adoption stories, we have been sharing stories of, so far, we've shared 2 stories of families who have completed the adoption process. One family that's starting again on their second adoption. This family is still in the process, and they were so gracious and willing to take time out of their busy schedules to talk with us about that process. We have joining us today Grant and Sarah De Jong, who are awaiting adoption with Lutheran Family Service. Grant, Sarah, welcome to the Coffee Hour.
Hi, welcome.
Hello.
So tell us about the De Jong family prior to starting this adoption process. Just a little bit of history of the De Jong family.
My husband and I have been married for 16 years, and we have 5 children already. Our oldest daughter is 14, and she was born with Down syndrome. And so before we started the adoption process, we are just a busy family with 5 kids, and we felt that our family was complete, and 5 kids is enough. And they were already keeping us hopping. So we have a 14-year-old daughter, a 12-year-old son, 11-year-old daughter, 7-year-old son, and a 3-year-old son.
So what made you want to consider adoption then?
It was 100% God. Like I said, we felt that our family was complete. We are large enough and busy enough. And at the beginning of 2019, God really just started working on my heart. And it really came out of nowhere. I just started getting these feelings that this is what we were supposed to be doing. And I started praying about it before I went to Grant about it. And I had actually volunteered to take a video at a special needs pageant for girls, for special needs girls. Because of my daughter having Down syndrome, that was just something that I really connected with and wanted to do. And while I was there, I met a mom that has a biological daughter with Down syndrome, and they actually adopted 3 more children with Down syndrome internationally. And I got the opportunity to talk to her, and it just was more confirmation in my heart that this is what God is leading us to do. And so a few weeks went by, and I finally got up the courage to talk to my husband about it. And that's really where it started. And we were both a bit overwhelmed. We didn't know what God's plan was for us, but we did commit to each other that we were going to pray about it. We were going to pray about it. We weren't just going to respond in fear or selfishness, that we were just going to pray about it and wait to see what God was going to open up and how he was going to lead us.
Grant, what did you think when Sarah first came to you and said that she had been thinking about adoption, that this was something that was on her mind a lot lately, and you had a happy, full household? What did you think when she shared that with you?
Well, I'll be honest, we have a real busy family, and, as far as I was concerned, 5 was enough, 5 was plenty. And so, I was kind of blindsided about it, but not totally surprised either. We had talked about adoption over the years, but, here we had, 5 kids, and, Gavin was only a couple of years old at this point. So I just kind of figured we were done. And but she brought it to me and said, I think we need to pray about this. And, over weeks and some months of talking about it on and off and prayer and everything, then, it became, pretty clear that this was the path that we should take. and that we should start pursuing this and see where God led us with it. So,
And what did you know about the process of adoption at that point?
almost nothing.
We knew nothing. We were so overwhelmed because there is so much. There's so much to learn. And after I had approached Grant about it, and I should back up a little bit, I do need to say that from the very beginning, we knew that it should be a child with Down syndrome, not just adoption of a typical child. We knew that if we were going to do this, it was meant to be a child with Down syndrome, which made it even scarier because then you add the special needs and just a whole entirely different dimension. So after we had first talked about it, then I started diving into just research. I started connecting with other parents that have adopted. And actually, at the beginning, we were first looking at international adoption. We thought that God was leading us to go to the other side of the world and adopt a child out of an orphanage. We have heard some just heartbreaking stories about children over there, and we felt that that's where God was pulling us to. So I was talking to international agencies, asking questions. I just weeks and months of questions and research and getting familiar with the terms and what does this mean and what are we supposed to do now. And so it was months of learning and praying, and we had confided in a few close family members and friends at that point that we don't know what God is up to, but we really just need prayer and discernment and direction and peace in all of this. So we did have that support from some people that we trusted, that were alongside of us and praying for the whole process from right at the beginning.
How did you end up getting connected with Lutheran Family Service then?
So at the beginning of this year, so probably in January, we were really close to signing on with an international adoption agency. We had all the facts that we felt we needed. We were ready to move forward. We were so close to signing our names and moving forward with international adoption. And God just really abruptly put a roadblock in front of us that we felt like, okay, I don't think this is fitting our family anymore. This isn't fitting what we thought international adoption was going to look like for us. And then we started looking at domestic adoption and kind of we didn't have to start completely over, but we did have to start over with some more different research because it is different if you're doing domestic adoption versus international. And honestly, I had a couple leads on some phone calls for agencies, and because we had to stay within our state, and they fell through. And I just had a random reference to Lutheran Family Services. I had never heard of them before. And I called them and told them our story, told them that we're specifically looking for a child with Down syndrome. And that's how that connection started. It was completely God, and it was completely random. Nothing that we did, found us or led us to Lutheran Family Services. It was God directing every step.
Tell us about that first face-to-face visit with Lutheran Family Service. And you said this was what, January, February. So this was about the time that things were getting a little chaotic in our country too.
That's true. So it was first a phone call. I had just called to tell them that, hey, we're looking for an adoption agency and we're specifically looking to adopt a child with Down syndrome. And I was talking to an assistant at the agency and just kind of told her our story a little bit. And the next day, the director had called me herself, and she was very interested in our adoption. And more specifically, she was incredibly interested in supporting us with Down syndrome adoption. It is something that they had never seen before. And they just, God moved in their hearts, to really be supportive and encouraging in this specifically.
Yeah, what impressed me was she basically called back with a plan. Like overnight, she had gone out of her way to talk to, like her, I think she said board of directors, or, some of the directors, some important people that, manage the rest of Lutheran Family Services. And she's like, this is what we want to do. Like, we have a plan. We want to create an initiative. We want to just kind of go all in. And that impressed me immensely. So yeah.
Yeah, so that phone call that I had with Kim, we talked about what their plan was, what their idea was, not just to be our adoption agency, but to create a Down syndrome adoption program in their agency now, and walking alongside of us and using the opportunity to
Promote.
Yeah, there you go. Promote Down syndrome adoption and to really advocate for babies that are very vulnerable to abortion. Because I had told her that statistically 67% of unborn babies that are diagnosed with Down syndrome are aborted. And
that's only in the United States.
And that's only in the United States. And so we are, looking for a very vulnerable, a child that is very vulnerable to abortion. And they just went above and beyond to be part of that and to promote and advocate for that. And yeah, so that phone call was just incredibly humbling. It was mind-blowing. And at the end of the phone conversation, Kim said to me, Sarah, let's pray. And I already knew throughout the phone conversation that God was working in some huge ways. But for her to close all of that, with me on the phone, a stranger, and said, this is our plan. We still want to bring this to the sovereign God. We still are putting this in God's hands and looking for God's blessing on this.
Wow. We have more to share in this story. We have more to share in this story with the De Jong family about their adoption with Lutheran Family Service, still in progress. And thanks be to God, it's His good work. You're listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
You're a miracle. You know that, right? A living, breathing, one-of-a-kind miracle. You were created to stand apart, to share your gifts in the service of others, to make an uncommon impact in a common world. And at Concordia University, it's our mission to help you do that, to live uncommon. To learn more about Concordia, go to cuw.edu.
You're listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
We're continuing our adoption series with friends from Lutheran Family Service in Iowa. The De Jong family is joining us today, Grant and Sarah, sharing the story of their desire to adopt a child into their family. They're already a wonderful family of 5 children. Is that
Yes.
right already? And wanting to add more to this family, but something very unique about their adoption, seeking to adopt a child with Down syndrome, a very vulnerable child who might be vulnerable to abortion in America today and so many other places in the world where children who are diagnosed with Down syndrome in the womb would be risk of abortion, of being aborted. So, Grant, Sarah, you had your first visit over the phone with Kim about this process and what you wanted to do, that you were seeking to adopt a child with Down syndrome. That first visit over the phone concluded with a prayer. You knew that this was the route you wanted to go, that really confirmed where you wanted to go, or the organization you wanted to go with. What were the next steps after that? And this is at a time when, this is February, March, or
Yeah.
about the time that the coronavirus was starting to make its way into the United States in big way, and things were, I'm sure, changing all across the country in terms of able to meet in person. How did that impact the process for you? What were your next steps, and how were they impacted by this?
So this was early enough that the whole lockdown stuff hadn't really started yet. So we were able to go down to Urbandale to meet with Kim and with her staff. That was fairly easy. We were there for, I don't even know, a good couple hours probably, just talking and trying to get things figured out and letting them, know what we were looking for and what our plan was, and then they presented what their plan or their initiative that they wanted to basically build around, our adoption, story in a way, and kind of make us the, I don't know if poster family is the right one, but just kind of the face of their initiative, and as a way to put I don't know, personal touch to it, I guess, or not that we ever really sought out being the picture of anything, but we are more than willing, and what you want to say, we want to advocate, and we've always wanted to do that, and they just definitely gave us the opportunity to partner with us and with them and to do that.
So where are you now in this process of adoption? Where are you now in this process?
Yeah, so we are home study ready, and we have been since the beginning of July. And so right now we are just waiting. We are waiting for God to reveal our baby to us. So we've been waiting for 4 months. And we also are partnering with NDSAN, which is National Down Syndrome Adoption Network. And they come out of Ohio. And that is probably how we will most likely get connected with our baby, as they deal only with babies with Down syndrome. So we're probably one out of 40 families that are on that family registry as well. And Lutheran Family Services will do as much of the legal side of all of it as possible once we are matched.
Now, you mentioned a home study ready. For those who have not looked at the adoption process before, what does that mean? What do you know about the home study and things like that in this
Yeah,
process?
so the home study is, they look at where we are at financially, where we are at emotionally, and they do background checks, come to our house to make sure that it's a safe place. We create a profile book of our family, explaining who we are, what our intentions are, what our goals are for raising this child, and it prepares us legally to be ready to adopt, and gets the information in order to be presented to a potential family that would like to choose us.
How have you prepared your house and your kids? How have you all been preparing to welcome a new child into the family?
Well, we've been telling our kids about adoption for quite a few months, and they are so excited. Our oldest daughter, Cheyenne, who has Down syndrome, she just loves babies, and she cannot wait to add another baby to our family, her own baby that she can dote on. So we talk about it all the time. It's something that we pray about all the time. I know the kids pray about it around the table for mealtime, and so often, they say we can't wait until we get baby number 6, and we call the baby our Clover baby, because I had read a cute poem talking about Down syndrome, that Down syndrome's not anything to be scared of. That's just like finding a 4-leaf clover. That it's just like other babies. It's just like other 3-leaf clovers. But if you find a 4-leaf clover, it's just extra special and extra lucky. And instead of Down syndrome being something to be afraid of, it's something that we should be excited about and rejoicing and celebrating.
So now it's just the process of waiting and waiting.
Yes.
How are you doing with that
Well,
waiting?
hard.
The steps of waiting.
I think
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, especially because we have had situations presented to us. The babies are there. We are just waiting for God to make it abundantly clear of, is this the right child or not? And with all the potential placements that we've been presented with, none of them have been the right baby We don't know why. We're not sure why it's not the right baby yet, but we do believe that God's going to make it abundantly clear when his timing is on that and who that child is going to be.
How would you describe your experience with Lutheran Family Service so far?
Impressive.
It's yeah, it's been incredible. We were just looking for just an agency, just an agency. We need someone to do the legal stuff. That's just what you need. And when God connected us with Lutheran Family Services, what we found was more like a family. What we found is partnership, and they were on the same page as we were with everything, so we were so unified, and we are just, even though our family is actually the one adopting, we know that we are unified with them and that they are supporting us and cheering for us just as loud as our family and just as loud as our friends. They're coming alongside of us, and just they're just part of our very intimate experience with going through all of this.
In addition to Lutheran Family Service, you mentioned friends and family. Who are the important people who have supported you through this decision? Who's been supportive of this decision to adopt?
We have some really great church family. We have a very small church, but there's a couple people that we confided in way at the beginning, way last year. And they have been endlessly encouraging and supportive, and they have been praying with us. They've been cheering alongside of us. And so aside from our family and our friends, definitely our church family.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Grant, Sarah, anything else you'd like to share with our listeners today, especially those who might be considering adoption or an adoption unique like yours, searching for a child that would be vulnerable, such as a child with Down syndrome? Anything you'd like to share with our listeners who might be considering this process for their family as well?
I would say, so we did not know that our daughter Cheyenne was going to have Down syndrome when she was born. She was our first child. I was scared, and I was 20 years old. And God has enriched and blessed our lives on so many levels through her and through her having Down syndrome in greater ways than we could have ever imagined. And Down syndrome is not anything to be afraid of. There is something just incredible and unique and special about a person with Down syndrome that typical people just don't have. She has changed us as people and changed our lives in incredible ways. And having a child with Down syndrome, instead of being afraid of it, and instead of just being run with fear and thinking that, this is different or this is, not what we had planned, what it actually has been like winning the lottery. It is something that we wish that everyone had a chance to experience. And we are so thrilled and blessed to be able to add another child with Down syndrome, because that means we get to win the lottery twice. And the ripple effect that she has had on everybody that she has come in contact with has just been beautiful. People that know her just are truly blessed by her and her presence and her beautiful heart and her very simplistic way of living and looking at life. People are just blessed by her, and she has been nothing but a miracle and a blessing. And she's changed our lives. We would not be in this position at all if it wasn't for her.
Right.
You've been listening to the Coffee Hour today with our guests Grant and Sarah De Jong, awaiting an adoption with Lutheran Family Service. Grant, Sarah, thank you so much for sharing your beautiful story and your wonderful family with us today. Thanks for being our guest on the Coffee Hour.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
The Coffee Hour with Andy and Sarah is a production of KFUO. To support the Coffee Hour and KFUO Radio, visit KFUO.org. You can also text KFUO to 41444 or send an email to gifts@kfuo.org. And you can call us at 800-844-0524. KFUO. Christ for you, anytime, anywhere.